Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending upon where you have joined from. Welcome to another webinar by Data Platform Geeks. Our webinar today is on the session Data Understanding Views in SQL Server, and our speaker for today's session is Satya Ramesh, who's a senior consultant from SQL Maestros. My name is Aarti Nambiar, and I'll be your host for the next few minutes, and Mamita Sinha is helping us with the moderation. So before we begin with the webinar, I wish you're all keeping well and staying safe. So let me just go through a couple of slides. We represent Data Platform Geeks and SQL Server Geeks, which are two different communities founded by Amit Bansal. So log into dataplatformgeeks.com, where you'll find all the upcoming events, webinars, and virtual symposiums. You'll also be getting access to all the webinar recordings, resources, technical blogs, magazines, etc. And many of you might be knowing that we are coming up with virtual symposiums in the month of May and June. They're all scheduled on the website. You can just check it. The first virtual symposium is happening on May 7th and 8th. So the details and the speaker sessions, it's all given in the website. So in SQL Server Geeks, we have lots of SQL Server related tech videos and blogs. And once in a year, we do host an international learning event called as Data Platform Summit. So if you wish to follow us or join us in any of our social media channels, here's the link to it, bit.ly/DPG Social, where you get access to all the social channels of DPG and SSG. So we have our presence in all LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Telegram. You can either join us or follow us as per your preferred social channel. So as I was talking about Data Platform Summit, it's an international learning event which happens in Bangalore. So on the right side of the screen, you will find the logos or themes of the previous year's conference. Data Platform Summit 2020 dates announcements have been put on hold as of now. So once the situation is under control, we'll start working on the dates. So this is a group picture taken at DPS 2019, which was held in August at Bangalore. We had more than 1,000 attendees who had attended the conference from 16 different countries and from 300 different companies. There were more than 100 sessions based on 7 technology tracks, which were delivered by over 60 speakers from 20 different countries. If you're a person who works on data, AI, or analytics related technologies, this is a must attend conference for you all. Here at this learning event, you get to learn and network from the product makers, MVPs, Microsoft certified trainers, and industry veterans. So for more details regarding the Data Platform Summit, you can log into dps10.com or drop in an email to contact@dps10.com. So all the links are available in the chat window. And a big thanks to our DPG core team members who spend their time with the community apart from their schedules. We have Amit Bansal, who's the founder and president, Manohar Punna, the vice president, and other regional mentors from different cities. So apart from the DPG team, we have the eDomina teams who help us in organizing and managing these events. Special thanks to Microsoft and supporting us with all our community activities. Knowledge partner for today's webinar is SQL Maestros. You can go ahead and visit the website sqlmaestros.com to know more about their offerings. SQL Maestros has recently come up with video courses on performance tuning, T-SQL querying, and T-SQL programming. I'll talk about all the video courses after the webinar session. So meanwhile you can visit sqlmaestros.com, or you can also drop in an email to contact@sqlmaestros.com. So one of our team will definitely reach back to you. So you're all members of Data Platform Geeks community. Remain as a member and get access to all our free videos, labs, magazines, and resources. So you'll also be notified on all our upcoming activities. And once in a while, we do put up free hands-on labs for the community. Kindly whitelist Data Platform Geeks domain and add events at Data Platform Geeks to your address book so that you don't miss out on any of our updates. And today's webinar, if you have joined from the direct Zoom link, you can kindly go ahead and register yourself as a DPG member so that you'll get access to the recordings and resources of today's session. So the links are there in the chat window. Beyond this webinar, if there are any questions, you can join our social channels and post your queries there. We'll pass it on to the speaker, or someone else from the community will definitely answer them. So without any more delay, let me hand it over to the speaker. Satya, over to you.
Thank you, Aarti. Can you hear me?
Yes, Satya. You can share your screen.
I've started sharing my screen. Can you see this?
Yes, sir. Yes, Satya.
Yeah. So I request all the attendees, if you can able to see the screen and hear me, please put up yes in chat window so that we can start our session. Yeah. Yeah, looks like all of you can able to see the screen and hear me properly. So let's get started. And before we start, I hope all of you are keeping safe and you're staying at home safe, right? Today we are going to discuss about understanding views in SQL Server. So some of you may know already know that what is a view and what all we do with the views, and what are the use cases that we generally that are generally where views are used. So, but we need to start from the beginning so that if anyone who are in the basic level 100 or something like that, then we start from there and then we go all the way to indexed views, etc. So before we begin, here are the quick agenda. So we'll talk about introduction, what is a view and what are the limitations and characteristics of a view. And then we'll quickly go through about modifying data through the views. And then we'll discuss indexed views and close the session. So let's get started. Before we start, I'll just ask a quick question. So what do you think is a view? What is a view from your perspective? Please put up your response in chat window. What is a view from your perspective? I'm monitoring the chat window so that I can see your responses there. According to you, what is a view? I'm getting responses. It's a saved SQL query, logical table, virtual table, virtual table, save complex queries, virtual table, logical representation, where we can store the queries. View is virtual table, yes. Screenshot of data by applying filters, temporary tables. A view is nothing but a virtual table. View is only a structure which contains a reference to the tables. Good response. And so thank you for all the response. And the last response is view is a virtual table which is physically not present but in compiled format. Yes, Dilip. So view, as all of you said, like most of you said, view is a virtual table. So when we say virtual table, that means it doesn't have any physical representation. So when we say it doesn't have any physical representation means whenever you take a table, a base table, for example, it has rows and columns and we have some data in it, and that particular data is physically stored in the hard disk. So it is hardened to the disk. Whenever we create a view, the data is not stored in the disk, and unless an index is created on top of a view, that we'll discuss a little later. But generally speaking, view doesn't store any data physically in the disk. So what is the use of a view? So generally, we create a view on top of some base tables. So we can take a couple of tables and join them together, and we can also perform some aggregations on top of that query, the data, and then we create a view on top of it. So create a view and then write a select query there. So that's what we generally do. So whenever we query the view, it fetches the data from the underlying tables. For example, you have transactions table, you have an orders table. So in the order table, you have all the orders, and in the transactions table, you have all the transactions, and in the stock table, you have all the stock available with you. So if you want to do some calculations on top of these three tables, you may need to join these three tables and perform some aggregations. So if you are using this query, if you are doing this aggregation again and again, so that is where the use case of views comes in. You can put up this particular select query, aggregated query, and put it in a view so that you can access the view very, very quickly. So what is it doing now? It improves the simplicity. So instead of writing a big select query with multiple joins and multiple aggregations every time, you can just put up that select query inside a view and access the view every time you need it. So that is where the use case of view, that is the simplest use of view that people generally use. So another use case that we generally see is that you have a lot of tables and you have a lot of columns, and you don't want your developers to access all the columns from all the tables. So you can just join some important tables and just fetch out important columns from those tables, create a select query and create a view on top of it, and give the access to that particular view to your developers. So that gives us some security advantages. So instead of giving direct access to underlying base tables, you're joining multiple tables together, and whatever columns you need, necessary columns, you're just fetching them out and then create a view on top of it and give access to developers on top of this particular view. So in this way, it is helping us in aggregations, security as well. So here I have just put up all those things that I just spoke about in the slide. So it improves the security. It improves aggregations. Yes, someone in the chat window is saying view is used to save complex queries. Yes, so whenever you join multiple tables and you're performing aggregations, etc., the query become complex. So you are storing that particular complex query in a view. So that in that particular context, you're saving you're saving complex query in a view. So that's fine. So I can see a lot of spam coming in Q&A. So can you please? Someone called Anupama, so that is actually coming as a pop-up in front of me as a distraction. So can you please doing that? So there are a lot of questions in the Q&A, which is a spam content actually. So I'm just, that is popping up in front of the machine. So
I'm sorry to interrupt. Satya, I'll do it. You can carry on with your session.
Yeah, it's coming as a pop-up on the screen actually, so that's why. Yeah, so it is fine now. Yeah, Manveer also has a question. So all the questions, so I request all the attendees to put your questions using Q&A panel. I'll just go through the content, and at the end of the session, I'll just go through the Q&A panel and we'll discuss all the questions in single go. So that will be very useful because a few of the questions will get answered as part of the lecture itself. So please bear with me and please put up your questions using Q&A panel. So at the end of the session, I'll just go through all the questions quickly. Yeah, we were discussing about use cases of views. So views helps us in improving security, providing security, and views also helps us in simplifying our complex queries. So that's where views comes into the picture. So let's go and discuss about a couple of quick limitations that we have when we are dealing with views. So an order by cannot be used inside a view. So generally, order by cannot be used inside a view or else inline table valued function or else like subqueries unless a top is specified. So that is one of the limitation that we have whenever we are dealing with views. And all the resulting columns must have names. So if at all you are doing some calculated columns, you are performing some calculations on top of columns and deriving a new column, that column must and should have a name to it. And all the names should be unique so that there is no ambiguity between the columns whenever we query a view. So that is another limitation. It's kind of a characteristic property. And whenever there are changes to underlying tables, like for example, you have added a column to the table or else you dropped a column from a table, and if you want that to be reflected in a view, you need to refresh the view. That is one of the important thing that you need to know. Whenever metadata changes happen to underlying tables, you need to refresh the view. Otherwise, you won't be able to see the modifications that has happened to underlying tables. So let's go ahead and see all these things in a quick demo. I'll just go through all these things very quickly so that what all we have spoke till now, we'll just see them in action. So before we begin, if at all there are any such views, etc. are there, then we can drop them. And let's see this particular query. I'm using SQL Maestros database, but for this particular demos, all the demos that we are using today will be on top of SQL Maestros database. It's a dummy database on top of SQL Maestros Hands-on Labs project. SQL Maestros Hands-on Lab project is a kind of a library of documents. If you go through the document, you will be able to learn a particular concept. So this kind of a sales details for that particular project exist in this dummy database. All the sales figures that you may see here are dummy, so don't take them seriously. But the techniques, etc., that we are discussing today will be applicable everywhere, and that they are accurate techniques. So first of all, let's describe the problem statement. Find the sales report of each lab per month. There are so many labs exist in SQL Maestros database. So if you want to find out a sales report of each lab per month basis, so every year you have 12 months. So for every lab in a year, you'll get 12 reports. So if you have 100 labs, for every month you'll get hello. I hope you can hear me. I just disconnected.
You're audible.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want to find out a sales report of each lab per month, so we have close to 100 labs, and for every month we want report of each lab sales, like how each lab is doing and what we need to. So like, depending upon that, we may decide to give discounts, etc., etc. So that is what we want to find out. To find that out, we may write this kind of a query. So just join couple of tables. Here I'm joining 4 tables: transaction details table, where we have all the transactions of each lab, and subscriptions table, where we have all the subscriptions as a monthly subscription, yearly subscription, etc. And we in the download statistics table, we have all the downloads, like which lab was downloaded on which date by which subscriber, etc. And in the HOL lab, we have all the lab details: title of the lab, ID of the lab, category of the lab, etc. So I'm joining these 4 tables, and then performing some aggregations here. In this particular case, sum on top of subtotal, and then grouping the data based upon lab title and month. So by doing all these aggregations, I'm just going to find out lab sales report per month. So if I execute this particular query, you're going to get for each lab, for each month, you get sales, and this many number of items it was sold in this particular month. So you have got total 5,983 records. That means for every month, for every lab, you will get sales. So if this is the query, this is the kind of a query that you may want to use again and again, then this is the best query, best fit to put up in a view. So how to create a view? So here is a quick syntax, and create view name, and then you use this keyword called as, and you put up exact select query here inside the view. So this exact select query that we have seen earlier, which is finding sales report of each lab per month, you are just using the query again here in create statement. So if you go ahead and create this particular view, and now you don't need to write this query again and again. You can just write this particular query, select star from view. So if you write that query and execute, you are going to get the same thing. I've just removed this particular count big thing. It's not needed for right now. Later, when we are using index view, there is one limitation. For that particular purpose, I have just put up this count big of star here. To create an index on top of a view, there are a couple of limitations. One of that limitation is count big. We are going to discuss that a little later. But in this particular query, if we execute this one, we have got the exact output, each sales report of each lab per month. So that is how you create views. So similar thing can be done using stored procedures, functions, etc., etc. But if you see functions needs an input parameter. In this particular case, we do not have an input parameter. For every function, there should be at least one input parameter. In this particular case, we don't need input parameter. If you are passing lab title as input parameter, then you may need to go ahead with inline table valued function. So people generally call inline table valued function as a parameterized view. So there is no difference between both of them. At least only difference is that you can pass parameters to inline table valued function. So that is a quick definition. And if you can also use the store procedure to do this, but later when we are discussing index views, then you'll get a slight advantage of a view over store procedure to do this thing, because you can create index on top of a view, whereas you cannot create index on top of a store procedure. So there are on face of it, you can do all these things. You can store procedure also, you can do a view, you can do through a view also, but index view will play a major role when you want to take a decision. So I hope one of the earlier question is answered right away now. So one of the other thing that we were discussing when we are on the slides is that you cannot use order by on top of a view, order by inside a view, I mean, unless a top is specified. So if you want to order the data inside a view, if you put up this order by clause inside a view, if you execute this particular query, try to create a view, try to alter a view, you're going to get this particular error. The order by clause is invalid in views, inline functions, derived tables, subqueries, and common table expressions, unless top, offset, or for XML is also specified. So this is a limitation that a view has. You cannot use order by inside a view unless top key is specified, top keyword is specified. So people generally come up with this particular alternative to put up order by inside a view. People generally come up with this particular alternative. Use top 100%. Top 100% will use entire table data actually, right? For example, you're joining 4 tables here, and this particular 4 tables are returning some 5,000 change date records, and top 100% represent that. Give me entire 5,000 records. That's what top 100% represents. So if you put up this particular keyword, top 100%, along with order by, you will be able to create a view. You will be able to create. So this is one of the quick alternative people find to use order by inside a view. But the point to be noted here is, even though you put order by inside a view, there is no guarantee that the output will be in ordered fashion. So if I select this particular query, select star from a view name, if I execute this query, you can see the data is not in order. So if you see our query, we are ordering the data based upon title. And if you go to our query, if you see the title column, D has come up as 33rd row, and before that you can see W and yes, etc. So the data is clearly not in order. So the point to be noted here is, even though you had put order by inside a view, order is not guaranteed by SQL Server. So generally, order is not guaranteed by SQL Server unless order by is specified. So now if you put order by clause again and execute the query, you will see the data in ordered fashion. So now you must, so then why people are using this particular alternative? Where has it come from? So if you go to SSMS and go to this particular database called SQL Mesos, for example, I'll just refresh this one. And if you want to create a view, let's go ahead and create a new view. And let's select any of the table. Let's select dummy statistics table. I'll just go ahead and add it. Let me take close it. Let me take all the columns and let's select. And while I'm selecting everything, you can see a query is getting populated here in the SSMS window. So let's, if I select download ID, you can see download ID is added. If I select HOL ID is added, subscribe ID, etc. So all the columns are listed here. Whenever I select this particular column and I want to sort this particular column based upon, I want to sort entire data based upon this particular column, download ID, in ascending order. If I add that and click here, SSMS is automatically adding top 100% keyword here while adding order by. So this is where people have come up with this particular alternative. So even though you can create a view using order by clause along with the top 100% like this, but like this, order output order is not guaranteed, as we have seen here. So I hope the concept that we have discussed is clear till now. Order by top 100%, etc. Please put up your response in chat window. Please put up yes if it is clear till now. Yes, looks like concept is clear for most of you. So looks like Vinod has some question. If you have any question, please put up in Q&A panel. Yeah, let's go through our next demo. So as we are discussing, whenever there is some metadata changes to the underlying tables, view should be refreshed. So view will not get to know until you refresh. That is how SQL Server code is built. So whenever there is a change to underlying table, then view should be refreshed. Then only the view will get to know about underlying changes. So that is how the code inbuilt SQL Server inbuilt code. So we need to keep that in mind and behave according to that. Instead of banging our heads like why there is such limitations, instead of doing that, we can just understand limitations and work according to the situation. So to show, hi Sajid, we cannot use parameter in a view. We cannot use parameters along with view. For that, we need to go with stored procedures or functions. So let's create a table called, there's already a table in the database, fine. And let's go ahead and let me quickly drop these two tables and then go ahead and start again fresh. Okay, let's create this dummy table view refresh and drop it and insert some data into it. And let's go ahead and see, select star from dummy.table. There are a couple of records. There are 3 records in our table. Is showing. So let me do one thing, quickly drop it, drop table name. Let's drop this particular table. Okay, let's go ahead and create the table again. Yeah, we have this table and let us insert. And if you observe, our table have only one column, which is column 1. And I'm just going to insert some default values. So we have only column 1 and we have defined identity property on top of it. And when we insert default values, identity property will start with 1. So the value for the column 1 will be 1. Let's execute this. Yes, executed. And if you go ahead and see the data inside a table, you can see the value 1. And let's go ahead and create a view on top of this particular table. Create a view on top of this particular table. I've created that. And let's go ahead and query the view. I've queried, yes, whatever is there in underlying table, we are getting it. Now, what I'm going to do is that we are going to add one more column to the base table. We are just adding one more column to the table view refresh, which is column 2. So the command is successful. So if you go ahead and see the table, we have column 2 ready and we have not passed any value. So that's why the value is null. So now let's go ahead and query the view. So if you go ahead and query the view, and if you see our view definition is saying select star from table name. So star means give me all the columns. So in right now our table have 2 columns. So we should get 2 columns. But when we query the view, we are getting only 1 column because the column was added after we have created the view. So in order in order for the view to display the columns, then we need to refresh the view. So sp underscore refresh view system store procedure is used to refresh a view. So this is, here is the syntax: exec sp underscore refresh view, and you just need to pass view name. And if you execute this one, the view will get refreshed. And now if you go ahead and query the view, you will be able to see the second column also. Similarly, whenever you drop a column, you need to refresh a view. So if you want to refresh all the views in a table, in a database, then you can use this particular query. You can use this particular query, which will refresh all the views in that particular database. You can use some kind of automation like cursors or cursor, something like that, and you can do it for all the databases together in off-peak times. And one more thing you need to see is that whenever you want to see the definition of a view, you have a view and you want to see what is the text inside a view, you can use this system store procedure called sp underscore help text, and you just need to pass view name to it. You will get full definition of a view. So here is the full definition of a view. I hope you can see that. Create a view as, and then all the select statement, entire select statement is here. And there is another way to get see that. If you want to see all the views in particular database, you can use this particular sys.views as a system catalog. You can use this one to see all these things, and you can also use information underscore schema.views to see all the views, and this will give you the view definition also. So here are quick things that we need to see whenever these are the basic things like how to create a view and how to refresh a view, and why we cannot able to see the changes to the underlying tables whenever we query the view after the change is done. And let me do the cleanup. I hope sp underscore refresh view and how to see all the views in a database and how to refresh all the views in particular database, and all these concepts are clear to you. Please respond in chat window with the word yes if you understand all these things. Yeah, looks like the concept is clear. And as we are going through all these things, and view is nothing but a virtual table. It doesn't have. Yes, Satish, you can do automation to refresh all the views. The question is, can I do automation to refresh all the views in certain frequency? Yes, you can do that. Please put up those questions in Q&A panel. Otherwise, I'll miss these questions. I'll answer all these questions at the end of the session, please. So as we are discussing, view is a virtual table that doesn't have any physical representation. Whenever you query a view, the SQL Server will go and fetch the data from underlying tables. That is what we are discussing till now. So that gives us another indication that view can also be used to modify the data of underlying tables. Yes, you can do that. So I'll just go and discuss only one example here. You can try out all the other different permutations and combinations, like simple view, complex view, when the view have only one single table, how DML operations can be performed, etc. I'll just going to show you one example here, but you can, based upon that example, you can explore all other permutations and combinations. Let me set up our demo here. So create a couple of dummy tables. One is subscriber table with 2 columns, subscriber ID and subscriber name. Let's create that, and let's go ahead and insert a couple of records into it. Subscriber equal to 1, name is John. Subscriber equal to 2, name is David. And I'm creating a dummy transaction table with the transaction ID and subscriber ID, and inserting a couple of dummy transactions there as well. If you go ahead and now, if you want to create a view to give all the transaction details of all subscribers, then you may go ahead and create a view like this. So whenever a view contains more than one table, we generally call it as a complex view. So even though this particular view is not complex, but general terminology goes like this. If at all some joins involved in a view definition, that is a complex view. If your view is defined on top of only single table, for example, select star from dummy.subscriber. If this is the only query that exists inside a view, then we generally call it as a simple view. Now we just have more than one table, we go ahead and call it as a complex view. So to get the transaction details of all subscribers, we may go ahead and create a view like this. So we have a view, and whenever we query a view, we'll get subscriber 1, his name is this, and transaction is this. So if you perform further grouping thing, then you may find like subscriber 1 has 3 transactions and subscriber 2 has also 3 transactions. And if you want to update now, if you want to update underlying data through a view, if you observe the query particularly here, I'm updating a view here. So updating underlying data through the view. What we are going to do here, whenever the transaction ID is equal to 10, update the subscriber name is equal to Peter. So earlier the name is John. Now we are updating that as a Peter. Wherever the transaction ID equal to 10, we are going to update the subscriber name as Peter. If I go ahead and do this, so there is only one transaction called is equal to 10. So for that particular transaction, the name should be changed to Peter. Let's go ahead and query the view again after update is done. Now if you see, for the transaction ID 10, the subscriber name is Peter. But for 11 and 12 also, the subscriber name is Peter. So why is this happening? Because if you go ahead and query both the tables, select start from dummy.subscribers, and you can also query this one, select start from dummy.transactions. And if you go ahead and execute these two tables together, you can see subscriber table on top, transaction table on bottom. So there is no common column in subscriber table for transaction. So there is a common column which is called subscriber ID in both these columns. So whenever you see this particular query, which is this particular update query, you're updating subscriber name where transaction ID is equal to 10. So transaction, where is this transaction ID equal to 10 exist? It is in transaction table. For the transaction ID table, you don't have a name column, but you have a correlation called transaction ID for transaction ID 10 subscribed equal to 1. Just take the subscribed equal to 1 and go into subscriber table. And for the subscriber equal to 1, you just update John to Peter. So that's why all the subscriber ID where subscriber ID 1 was updated to Peter. So here if you see for the 11 and 12 transaction IDs 11 and 12, the subscriber equal to 1. So for them also the data is changed. So this is what the important point that you need to keep in mind whenever you are performing modifications to the underlying tables through the view. So generally it is not recommended to perform modifications, either it can be update, delete, insert. It is not recommended to do through the view, but it is possible. So people tend to do it, and you need to keep these things in mind. And you cannot perform delete and insert operations on top of a complex views. I mean, whenever there are more than one column, more than two or two tables, I mean, two tables involved in a query, you cannot perform delete and insert operations generally. There are certain exceptions that that kind of exceptions we can discuss in some other time. But the thing is, if at all a delete operation or insert operation affects multiple tables, then you cannot perform that particular operation. That is the point to be noted. If it is a single table, if it is a very, very simple view dealing with only one table, then you can read the data from underlying table through view, you can update, you can insert also. But whenever there are more than one table is involved, there are certain restrictions that you need to keep in mind. But this is the very important thing. Whenever you are performing update through the view, then you need to keep these things in mind. I hope this example is clear. Please put up your response in chat window if it is clear. Yeah, I have someone asked like no need to commit run. I have rolled it back because I've performed some update operation. I just don't want that update to take place, so I just rolled it back here. You can commit also because it's only single example, but it's always better to do this way. So let me do the cleanup if I've not done it earlier. I hope all the concepts are clear. Let me go back to slides once again and discuss a couple of more concepts. So indexed views. So what is an index in first place? So what is the meaning of index, and why do we need to, what is the meaning of index, and why do we need to create index on top of a view? Please put up your response in chat window that why do we need, what is index in the first place, and why do we need to create index on top of a view? Then again, I'll just go ahead and discuss what we have in slides, etc. Please put up your responses in chat window. Performance, for faster performance. Index is used for increasing the performance of query to fetch the data faster. Easy retrieval. Yeah. Yes. So index is for assigning the address for rows. It makes the virtual table physical and makes more faster performance, especially faster performance of query to fetch the data faster. This will arrange the rows physically in the memory in sorted order. Too much of details there. This will arrange the rows physically. Okay. Okay. A lot of responses. Index is used for fast retrieval of the data. If you join one view with another view, it will give good performance. Yes, good. Pre-aggregated data for analysis, better for slow changing ones. Yeah, so there are a lot of responses. Let us go through our definition. So index helps us in reaching to the data faster. So that is the general definition of an index. So whenever you reach to the data faster, then you're cutting down so much of time. So overall performance of that particular query is improved. So performance improvement is a secondary benefit. So it's a kind of a direct benefit that people feel, but actually what index is generally doing is that reaching to the data faster. If you cut down that particular time, overall query time is always improved. So that is what index is used for. And whenever we have a query, whenever you have a view in this particular scenario, whenever we have a view and view doesn't have any physical representation. So whenever you query the view is going to get the data from underlying tables. For example, you have 5 join conditions. That means you have 6 tables in your view. So whenever you query the view, SQL Server is going to go to each table. So 6 different tables, get the data and perform whatever you want to perform. If you want to perform some aggregations, you can go ahead and do that and get the data from all the tables. So it's actually going and touching all the 6 tables, getting the data and performing the aggregations. So whenever you execute this one, whenever you execute a view, you're going to touch those tables again and again. So that is where we SQL Server team want to do something with that. Like SQL Server team want to improve that thing. So just because there is no physical representation, we cannot do it. If at all there is some physical representation for the view, then there is no need to go and touch all these individual tables. So that's where index comes into the picture whenever we are discussing a view. So the point here is when you need to create unique clustered index on top of a view that will make a view materialized. That means now you have a physical representation. So if you see, whenever you create an index on top of a view, now the view is physically exist. And you can, once you create a unique cluster index, then you can create more non-cluster indexes on top of a view. Why unique cluster index? Because clustered index generally has all the columns of a table, all the columns of a data set. Here in this particular case, if view is joining 6 tables, that is our data set. There are a couple of questions in chat window. Okay, let's discuss them a little later. Yeah, whenever you create an clustered index, cluster index generally have data of all the columns. So that is your base table now. So that is why this limitation exists, that you need to create unique clustered index first in order to create one or more non-clustered indexes. That is the first recommendation, limitation, sorry. And one more thing you need to note is that whenever you create an index on top of a view, then you have a physical representation. You have a base table now, and that particular base table will get updated every time there is a change in data to underlying tables. So all these things that we will see, and this particular index view is very, very great whenever we have aggregated queries. So when you join a lot of tables and you're performing a lot of aggregations, then creating index on top of it is a very, very good idea. So that is the main thing that helps us. So let's go ahead and quickly see a couple of demos around index views. So let me drop this particular view if exists. Okay. So let's see this one. So this particular query again finds the lab sales details per month. If I execute this particular query, it is joining a couple of tables. Like here in this particular case, it is joining 4 tables, and then we are performing some operation. And as this is an aggregated query, this is the same query that we have discussed in the beginning itself. So if you want to see the execution plan of it, let's go ahead and see the execution plan. So you have used 4 tables. So SQL Server has touched 4 tables here. SQL Server has touched 4 tables. You need whenever you execute a view, it has to go and touch again these same tables. Now it is an individual query. If you put this particular query in a view, let me put this create here, and let's go ahead and create this view. First, let's create this view and then execute this particular view. So if I go ahead and execute this particular view and then go to the execution plan, you can see the same execution plan, even though for individual query also the execution plan is same. For aggregated query or for view index, for a view also the execution plan is same. So it is going to use the same execution plan as we have discussed already. Whenever you query a view, it is going and touching underlying tables. So this is not giving any performance improvement. Now let's go ahead and create a unique clustered index on top of a view. To do that, there are a couple of limitations. So if you want to create an index on top of a view, the view should be schema binded. This is the limitation number 1. Schema binding is one of the view options. There are certain view options that exist in SQL Server that right now in today's session, because of time constraints, we are not discussing all view options. There are options like encryption. There is option like schema binding. There is option like check option, etc., etc. There are a couple of options whenever we discuss a view. So with schema binding is a view option, which is mandatory if you want to create a unique clustered index on top of a view. What this view schema binding do? Whenever you create a view with schema binding, you cannot make schema changes to the underlying tables, and you cannot drop underlying tables. That is what it is going to take care. So if you want to, so let's see this. If you create an index on top of a view and then one of the table is dropped, so that all the data belongs to that particular table is invalid now. So there should be some mechanism which is keeping track, which is making sure that data consistency is maintained. So view with schema binding option is doing that for us. So let's go ahead and create this particular view, and now you will be able to create index on top of it. As we discussed already, one of the limitation is that there should be count big function. Count big function should be used inside a select query in order to create index on top of it. So there is a quick alternative for that. Whenever you are trying and filtering, whenever you are querying the views and applying filters on top of it, and I'll come to that in a while. So let's go ahead and create a unique cluster index. Yes, you have created a unique cluster index. Let's go ahead and create this supplementary index as well. I'll discuss this thing why we are getting this one in a little while. Now, if you go ahead and query the view, the output is same. And now if you go ahead and see the execution plan, instead of going and touching all the tables every time, if you can just go ahead and do a simple index scan. So this is where our queries are helpful. Our queries will improve in performance. So if you want to perform filters on top of it, like get me everything from the view where sales is greater than 20,000. Now, if you go ahead and execute this particular query, now instead of go ahead and touching all the base tables, you can do a simple index seek. Data is in a single table now. So this is where you can reduce a lot of IOs instead of going to each and every table, get it, put it in memory. Instead of doing all those things, you can just go to our index, fetch the data from that particular index. That is where our like advantage is. So why we have created this particular non-cluster index here is that here we are querying on top of sales column. So I've just created one more non-cluster index on sales column. I've just included count because I don't want SQL Server to do a key lookup to get that count column. So that's why I just included that in this particular query. So I hope you have understood why we have created all these things now. And one more thing I just wanted to show you before we conclude, that let's say this particular view is altered. Let me alter this particular query. Okay, so alter view, right? And before doing that, I'll just go ahead and show you from Object Explorer. If I just refresh, you can see this particular view. Our view name is dummy.vws_sales report. Let's go ahead and see that. Let me expand that, and if you go ahead and expand this indexing tab toggle, you can see the two indexes that we have created. One is clustered and the other one is non-clustered. Now let's go ahead and alter our view. Let's go ahead and alter our view. If I alter the view and then go ahead and refresh this particular view and then go to sales report and go to indexes, boom, there is no indexes now. So what has happened? Can anyone explain why indexes are dropped or why there is no indexes? We have created two indexes. We have just altered our view. All the indexes are gone. What has happened? Please put up your response in chat window. With that, we can conclude today's webinar. Is this supported in all editions? Means querying in, yes, index view is supported on all editions. Partitioning is available only in enterprise edition. View partitioning, index partitioning, table partitioning, etc. But index views is available in all the versions. Definition of view is changed. Yes, the definition of view is changed. Here in this particular case, we have not done anything. We just altered. Definition is not changed. It replaced physical structure with new structure of view. Okay. Recreation of index. Recreated actually. There is no index actually here in this particular case. In all the indexes are dropped. The thing is that there is no tracking mechanism inside SQL Server that what exactly has changed whenever you have altered a view. So look at this. You have created a view. On top of that, you have created an index. Now your view is physically materialized. So you have a materialized view now. Now, whenever you alter that particular view, there is no guarantee that you're going to use all the tables and all the columns. So there is no tracking mechanism inside SQL Server that what is exactly changing inside the view definition. There is no mechanism inside SQL Server. So SQL Server assumes that view has changed. So the definition of view has changed. Even though I have not changed anything in this particular case, SQL Server assumes that. So whenever there is something changed, those indexes are no more valid. So those indexes are not valid anymore. So SQL Server doesn't like to keep those indexes. So all the indexes on top of that view are automatically dropped. That is what happening here inside SQL Server. So the point to be noted here is that whenever you modify view, whenever you alter view, all the indexes are dropped. So you have created a view and then you have created all the indexes, and whenever some other developer comes and modifies your view and all the indexes are dropped, you need to recreate all the indexes again. So you may see that. So there is some small change in a view. So someone altered it, and then all the performance of your views comes down very bad. So you don't have any clue. This is what exactly happened in that particular case. I hope the index view concept is also clear. Please put up your response in chat window. And if you have any questions, then you can ask in Q&A panel. So before we go into Q&A, I'll just hand it over back to the organizer.
Well, Satya, thank you. That was a wonderful webinar, and I'm sure you have lots of questions to be answered. So before we take up the Q&A, let me just have a quick word from our knowledge partner, SQL Maestros. And meanwhile, I request all the attendees to post your questions in the Q&A panel. So beyond this webinar, if there is any other questions, you can post it in our social channels, bit.ly/DPG social. So we'll get them to the speaker, or else someone from the community will reply to it. So as I talked about SQLmaestros.com, you can visit their website and learn about the video courses. SQLmaestros.com is a website, and you can also drop in an email to contact@sqlmaestros.com. So video courses, we have 3 video courses which have been launched recently: SQL Server Performance Tuning, Transact SQL Querying, and Transact SQL Programming. So all the 3 courses are live, and they are in the website. So video courses can be watched at the convenience of your home or work. These are high quality HD professionally recorded videos which you can watch anytime, anywhere, and as many times as you want. So we have full length video course as well as individual modules as well. So right now, supporting to the community during this tough times, there is a 50% of discount going on for the video courses. So you can log into sqlmaestros.com, or also drop in an email to contact@sqlmaestros.com to know more details about the video courses. One of our team members will definitely revert to you. So SQL Maestros has also relaunched its hands-on model subscription. So this is another offering from SQL Maestros. We believe that practice makes an individual perfect, and hands-on labs is a document-based learning where you'll be provided with step-by-step instructions, observations, screenshots, and scripts. So by the end of each document, you'll be an expert in that particular lab. So right now we have more than 100 labs on technologies related to SQL Server, Azure, Power BI, Analytics, Cosmos DB, etc. So the good thing about hands-on labs, and the reason why community loves it, is its subscription model. Right now, once if you purchase them, you can keep them for life or own them. So go ahead and visit sqlmaestros.com. There are a couple of free hands-on labs available for so you can download them and practice on them. So the links are again given in the chat window. And you can follow on any of our social media channels. So the links are all available. And we have posted a thank you note to the speaker. The links are available in the chat window. You have the Facebook link and the LinkedIn link. I would request you all to please go to the page and leave us a feedback or comment. That will definitely encourage our speakers to come back and deliver more sessions. So the links are given in the chat window. And we are also coming up with many more webinars this month. You can check it in our events at dataplatformgeeks.com. And we are also coming up with virtual symposiums, and which is scheduled in May and June. The first virtual symposium is happening on May 7th and 8th. Check out events at dataplatformgeeks.com. You can you'll also get the details of all the sessions and the speakers. So it's a 2 days of full day event with multiple sessions. So you can go to dataplatformgeeks.com and book your seat for the event you wish to attend. So I guess the Q&A.
Yeah. Please give the feedback. And as Aarti was discussing, those hands-on labs, the same thing that we are discussing in SQL Maestro's database, that in our examples, that is based upon this hands-on labs project. And I hope you'll all take advantage of those discounts going on to support the community in these tough times. Please go ahead. And let me go through the questions now. I'm opening up Q&A panel. Just give me a second. So why view does not allow group by clause? You can use group by clause inside view, Arka. The next question is, what could be a reason to refresh a view if a column is added or altered, like size change? So there is no mechanism in SQL Server that what is happening. There is no tracking mechanism which is keeping track of what all app changes that are happening to underlying tables. That's why this refresh view is introduced. So you need to refresh whenever there is a change into underlying tables, schema changes to underlying tables. So there is another question from Dishali. What is the logical reason that the data would not be in order? So generally in SQL Server, data is not guaranteed to be in order whenever you query the data. There is no guarantee that data is in certain order, generally speaking, unless you have used order by. So that is the same reason that the data is not guaranteed here in this particular case also. Any disadvantage, question from Abhishek, any disadvantage of building a view on a view? So there is no disadvantage on face of it as such, that you can use it but whenever it is becoming too complex, then there will be some performance side effects that may come. So that is the only thing that you need to keep in mind whenever you're using view inside a view. So generally people use view inside a view to achieve this modular approach, but there are new techniques by using CTE, you can do that. So these days, using view inside a view, or joining view with the join, these things that we generally don't see. Question from Anil. Index view is not very popular and has a lot of limitations, unlike Oracle views. Why is it so? Anil, to be honest, I don't have any clue about Oracle, but index view is a good thing whenever we have aggregated queries. And there are certain limitations, like you need to use schema binding, and to use schema binding also there are other limitations, that you should not use star, all the columns should have unique names, etc., etc. All those limitations are there. But yes, if you can able to meet those limitations and you have some aggregated queries, index view will definitely improve your query performance. Mukesh, could you please explain also curses? That is topic for another session, Mukesh. Today's topic is purely concentrated on views. Question from Satish, can I do automation to refresh all the views in certain frequency? Any other performance catch on doing it? Like every automation thing, like if you want to automate backups, if you want to automate index maintenance, etc., etc., all those things will be automated in all these jobs using job agent or SSIS jobs, etc. You can do automation, you can use PowerShell scripts, etc. But generally people prefer to do it using off-peak times. If you can able to take care of that, then there is no other performance catch to it. But yeah. Is there a way to control those update operations over a view. No, Kiran Kumar. So the idea is that the data itself is like that. If you have observed how the columns, how the two tables are joined, how the data is related. So in that particular case, there is no other way. If you want to if you want to do certain way, then you can go ahead use instead of triggers to perform that update. That is the only alternative that I can suggest to you. You can use instead of triggers if you want to perform update on top of a view, which doesn't do exactly what is happening in our demo. Sadakshari, we can restrict update statements on views, right? Yes, you can. Like all these permissions based upon roles, etc. You can always limit all these things. Ravindranath has a question. If view doesn't stores data with it, then how does it allow index and how it work? So whenever you create index, the data will get materialized based upon that index, based upon that and ordered based upon key column of that index. For example, in our if you see our index view example, we have created index on top of title and order month. So based upon those two columns, data will get ordered and will get stored as a clustered table. So that is how the data is physically stored in disk. Vishali has a question. What would be the day-to-day scenarios where index views would be needed? Index views, as we see, whenever you have aggregated queries that can benefit by having a single source, like instead of going ahead and touching like multiple tables, let's say some 15, 20 tables, and fetching out the data and then performing applications on top of it, it is a lot of IO. So if you have such a scenario in a day-to-day job, and if you want to improve the performance of those queries, then index view will be a better option for you. Dharmendran has a question. Is that indexed view will affect the performance of underlying table, have huge insert, update and deletes? Will happen bottleneck? Yes, of course, Dharmendran, it's like index has this thing generally, like whenever you have a index on top of a table, on top of an index, and if you have multiple of them, then obviously your inserts will slow down, your DML operations will slow down. So in index view case also, your index, your inserts, updates and deletes will slow down obviously. So you need to find a trade-off, like how the performance is improved for that particular aggregated query by creating one or two indexes versus how our insert performance is affected and how our DML operations are affected. If you can able to balance, then you can then go ahead and create index view. If it is too much of work for you, like if there are too much of performance issues for DML operations, you just drop this view and then let that operations go through and then create the index again. So that is the general technique that people follow. Sadakshari has another question. If underlying table already has indexes, do we need to have index view? Won't indexes of base table apply when query is executed within view? If I create index on view and base table also has index, which take precedence? So it's a good question. Like generally we do have, like for example, if you have 5 tables and all the 5 tables generally have foreign key and primary key, by that means we already have cluster index and non-cluster index, etc. But when we are performing some aggregations, which is happening, which SQL Server has to go and touch multiple tables altogether. So it will go and use that particular index whenever it is using underlying tables. But what we are trying to do here is that instead of going ahead and touching 5-6 different tables, 5-6 may sound small, like for example, consider as 20 tables. If you are go ahead and fetching the data from 20 different tables, and that particular thing is very, very heavy for SQL. A lot of IO is involved. Even though indexes are there, that particular index will help in reaching to that particular table faster. If you have 20 tables, individually you have to go and touch all these 20. But what we are trying to do by creating index on top of a view is that instead of going ahead and touching 20 tables, let's create a single data set for this particular query. Now we have only single table to touch. So that's where the performance is improved. So sometimes whenever you're using this particular index view in a subqueries, the view will tend to expand. So that particular time you may go ahead and use with no expand hint. So generally speaking, index view will take precedence on top of indexes which was there on base tables, because index view is a single table. I hope that answers your question, Satakshi. Yeah. Question from Munna: Is index view can store the data? Yes, that is, it can store index view is actually materializing the data. Question: materialized views and index views both are same? Yes, both are same. Kiran Kumar: do we have any scenario situations where index views can lead to worst performance? Right now, I cannot think of anything. Looks like there are a lot of questions. I request all of you to put up your questions in a link that we have provided in chat window. I'll try to answer all of your questions there because we are running out of time. It's already 4:15 and it looks like there are 20 more questions. So I request all of you to put up your questions in the feedback link that is provided in chat window. I request Aarti to provide that link in chat window again so that you can go ahead and put your questions there, and please put up your feedback also there, so that will encourage us a lot, and we can come back and deliver questions for you again and again. Sorry, questions, not questions, sessions for you again and again.
Yeah, you can definitely post your questions in the social channels as well as in Telegram. There are many community people who discuss and answer each other questions. You can post your questions, comments, and all in our link provided.
Yeah, looks like a same person has a lot of questions. So if you can able to collate all the questions and put up in a single comment in our LinkedIn channel or Facebook channel, I will try to answer all your questions in a single go.
Well, with this, I think we can close our webinar for today. Thank you all so much for attending, and thank you, Satya.
Thank you,
See
everyone.
you all for the next webinar, which is happening this Thursday. Thank you so much.